and welcome to this presentation about study abroad and global engagement opportunities for our Black and African American students. Our speakers include Dr. Natalie Graham, Associate Professor and Chair of the African American Studies Department. She's also the Director of the Institute of Black Intellectual Innovation. She'll share her own personal story about her study abroad journey and how the African American Studies Department can be a resource for students wanting to know more about global opportunities. We also have Monique Lefebvre as a study abroad alumna and Global Titan Ambassador, and she'll explain a little bit more about that, what that is, in just a few minutes. And she's going to give you a crash course in the many global engagement opportunities here at Cal State Fullerton. And my name is Cherie Merrill, and I'm the Associate Director in our Study Abroad and Global Engagement Office, which is SAGE for short. And I'll just be sharing some useful and practical resources for our students, our Black and African American students, as well as for their parents and families. And so without further ado, I will pass this over to Dr. Graham.
Thank you so much, Cherie, and welcome everyone. Thank you for logging in or being here, watching this video and thinking about all of the ways that you can learn about study abroad. I'm really excited to be to have the chance to share a little bit about my experience. And really, I'm going to start with why I didn't study abroad as an undergrad. Neither one of my parents went to a four-year university. And I was also a transfer student to the four-year university, and I was a commuter student who lived at home. So like many of you, I thought of school as a place where I came to take classes so I could get a degree, so I could get a job and provide for my family. And I also had a lot of responsibilities at home. I was helping to take care of my mom. I was having, I sort of thought about, it didn't seem like a possibility for me to go abroad. And really how I thought about study abroad is something that, wealthy people who didn't look like me did. It seemed like a kind of like, if I couldn't afford to go on a vacation, how could I afford to study abroad? So even like the ways that my family thought about study abroad, that impacted how I thought about study abroad, and really my connection to the university. So I want to encourage you to think about what are some of the ways that you see study abroad? What are some of the barriers that you might have to study abroad that can prevent you from really investigating if you can make it work for you? And this is a great conversation to have with your families, to have with folks around you to help get that advice and take those questions and concerns back to the study abroad office, back to your resources on campus, so that we can help you work through some of those issues and concerns you might have. Another thing, like I mentioned, the idea about finances, like I absolutely thought there was no way that I would be able to afford to study abroad. If I was on scholarship, I wasn't paying for it. I couldn't, get more loans to go abroad. It didn't seem like it made sense. And so, but I also didn't investigate it for myself. So I want to encourage you to think about, use these resources to help find ways that you can, break down some of these barriers and where they're really happening. And we'll talk a little bit, I think Monique is going to talk a little bit more about some of those opportunities, and also Cherie will talk some more about some specific opportunities and ways that you can access and think more through the finances piece. The last reason really is just general fear of the unknown. Like I hadn't seen a passport. The first time I saw an actual passport was in my 30s. Like I didn't live around people who went abroad and needed passports and talked about international anything. That wasn't my life. So this idea of just not knowing where you get a passport, how you get a passport, how much does it cost? Like those sort of ideas, like I just didn't know. And so again, you have these resources that are already in place at this university. It's a great opportunity for you to just plug in and say, I have no idea how to do this. Is it possible? And we want to help you answer that question. And so I'll talk a little bit. So the first time we had an experience abroad was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I had still, even finishing university, getting my PhD, getting into this job at Cal State Fullerton about 8 years ago. I still hadn't gone abroad. I still hadn't left the country. And so my first experience abroad was being able to present research at a James Baldwin conference in Paris. And so the idea of even I'm very, appreciative of the university and the framework they have to support folks to go abroad, because the university also supported my research to go abroad. So in a similar way, there are lots of supports at the university to help you go abroad and have that experience. Some of the great things that I learned from that experience and some of the takeaways that I had was, again, like it's not that these things don't happen without anxiety, without fear. It's not like I got on the plane and all the fear just melted away and then I, was miraculously able to speak French fluently. Like none of that happened. I got on the plane, I was terrified. I heard French in the speakers. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this on my own. But at every step, because I was connected to this program, I wasn't just traveling. It wasn't just a vacation. It was very specific. The hotel that I was staying at, the conference, the university that I was going to, all of those things were already established for me. And so that's a great reason, similar to what you'll have in a study abroad experience. You'll have a faculty member who's helping guide you. You'll have the resources outside of that faculty member to give you safe ways to explore and to do those things outside of your program, but also to have that framework to help give you that stability and kind of have a little bit of map about where you're going to go. And so I remember some of the things I remember the first time going abroad is how much you recognize that these cities that you go to are global cities. A lot of these places, and obviously, study abroad experiences are different. But if you've been to LA, one of the things that I recognized is Paris reminded me of LA. It reminded me the people, the sounds, what people look like, the global experience of diverse cultures and communities coming together. That's what a lot of these global cities, look like. Tokyo, Miami, DC, like a lot of these cities have those very integrated experience of people coming from all over the world to be part of those cities. And so I think that that's one thing that I recognized. It doesn't diminish the value of how different we all are. Like US is very different than other countries. And you learn that when you study abroad, which in ways that you might not anticipate, right? It's very different, and that's a great experience. But I think my major takeaway too is how much we're joined by our common humanity. And so when you go abroad, it's not like you're going into like a pit of vipers. You're going into places with moms and aunties and little babies and people who, heard of Beyonce and play it on their speakers, and, Justin Timberlake is in the grocery store. Like you have these same experiences of the things that bind us together in a global environment. And so that's what I think is beautiful about study abroad as well, is you get to have that experience. You get to share music, you get to share, food, you get to, have those similarities and differences as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about how African American studies can be a resource for you. I really want you to consider whether or not you're a minor, whether or not you're a major of African American studies. I want you to see African American studies throughout your academic career as a resource for you. If something is happening in your major, if you have questions about study abroad, if you have questions about how do I save for study abroad? What scholarships in the university am I are accessible to me? Please reach out to me. Reach out to me directly. As the chair, I can put you in contact with folks who can help answer your questions. I'm more than willing to kind of talk through some of these issues with you, think about other possibilities that you might, pathways that you might take to get abroad or to get away and have that experience off campus. I really do believe that place-based learning and experiential learning is a great asset to you in your job, in your personal and career development. So I think that it's really vital, and to think about it as a possibility and as a central possibility of your education. So there are scholarships, there are ways that we can, talk through things. And then there's also a couple of things that I kind of consider steps to study abroad, right? I've talked a lot about study abroad and my abroad experience, but the university also provides study away programs. There's great programs throughout the university as close as, LA. There was a study away program there. There was a study away program, in Northern California. So there are ways that you can have this experience off campus, have experiential learning, and you don't have to get a passport to go. So I want to encourage you to think about, okay, I'm not ready to go to Italy yet, but I do want a different experience. New Orleans is very different than Los Angeles or than, Whittier or Orange or wherever, these cities that you might be coming from. And so I encourage you to think about, the possibility of stay away as well. Another thing that we have specifically that I've been working on that I'm really excited about has been the virtual aspect of study abroad and virtual study away programs. And some of the programs that I'm working on, I teach African American music appreciation, and I have just started a virtual program where we focus on Nigeria. We think about, and the first thing you learn right away, African American music appreciation, is that Black music is rooted in African music. You cannot separate the two. American music is rooted in Black music. You cannot separate the two. So this idea of global transit where we're already connected to countries that we might not even know about. I think study abroad gives us that opportunity to see those things, we see it more clearly. And so we look at Nigeria, we look at, artists who like Burna Boy, we look at Jidena, we look at Fela Kuti, we look at all of these artists who have resonance across the globe. But we also look at where they came from. What does Nigeria mean in this global context? How can certain countries get erased from the conversation when you have these icons and stars that sometimes can seem even a little bigger than the countries they come from? And what are some of the reasons why that might happen? So we get to explore some of those things in a virtual environment. And then also, hopefully, it's a step towards building a study abroad program in that country. So another thing that I think is really important is to think about, we talk about African American studies. There's not enough study abroad programs in Africa. We want to build those programs up. And one of the ways those programs get built is by seeing what students want, seeing where students want to go. I do want to just encourage you to recognize that even if you don't see it yet, but you're like, no, you know what? I want to make sure that there's a study abroad program in this country before I leave, and that's where I want to go. We can help think about how to build that, right? Like a lot of study abroad programs, they get built based on faculty and student interests. It's not like these things sort of just come out and grow without anybody's attention or just by themselves. They happen because you want to see it happen. And so I encourage you to think about, where do you want to go, and reach out to us to help get you there. So like I said, please do think of African American Studies as a resource with study abroad or any other thing you're trying to navigate in the university. We absolutely will try to help you. If we can't help you, we'll put you in conversation with somebody who can. So thanks so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Graham. Thank you for sharing your experiences and also those great resources. All right, gonna start my time here. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Right. So, hello, my name is Monique, and I'm gonna be going over a general overview of study abroad and global engagement programs. So I know you're probably getting in a lot of information and exploring this website. Thank you for stopping by the Study Abroad program information session. And just know that if you do choose to study abroad, it'll be something you'll be very glad you took part in. There was a quote from a professor in Knox College. He said, "Employers look for candidates who are globally minded." So what better way to prove that you're globally minded by having it on your resume because you studied abroad in college. So just keep that in mind. So Cal State Fullerton offers some really great programs. First, I'll be talking about the global engagement programs. We have co-curricular, which means that it's not going to necessarily count towards credit for your degree, but it still gives you that experience of living and studying in another place. So you'd go to a different country like Puerto Rico or Cuba or Dominican Republic, help out in the community there while also learning about the culture, about the people, and it's a very immersive experience. So that usually happens during spring break, winter break, or even summer break. It can be a week or 2 weeks. You'd go with a faculty and a group of students from Cal State Fullerton. So together you'd all travel, spend time together, and learn together. Like Dr. Graham mentioned, there's also research experience for students as well. So you do research here in the US and then present it in another country or another part of the US. So that would look really great on your resume as well. You're doing all the work here in your area, your home, and then you'll just be presenting somewhere else. There's study away within the US, like Dr. Graham mentioned as well. This is where you'll be taking a course where you do get credit towards your degree, and it's with the faculty, it's with your other Cal State Fullerton students, but it's just in another part of the US or its territories. Finally, our virtual programs is something that's really taken off in the last year and a half. A huge plus of this is that you don't have to pay for housing or transportation. You get a immersive experience learning from a professor overseas, but from the comfort of your own home. And you could put on your resume that you went to this university, but it'll be from your home. So a lot less expensive, and it could be just a way to get your feet wet and see if you enjoy learning from another country. Our other types of programs are study abroad programs. So we have non-CSUF programs. Let's say you wanted to take a course from a specific university overseas. So you could do that, but you'd be paying that university's tuition and fees. So it might cost a little bit more than what you pay at Cal State Fullerton. It could be a short-term semester or year-long program. The column on the right, the CSU or CSUF programs, this is where Cal State Fullerton is in contact with certain universities from different places around the world, and you'd be paying Cal State Fullerton tuition fees. So you know how much you'd be going into for tuition and fees, and you'd also be paying the transportation and housing and the other expenses when you're living abroad. And this also could be short-term semester or year-long programs. Another point I wanted to mention is, let's say you want to just stay within the area in the next year or two. You could still be engaged globally here at Cal State Fullerton. There's something called the Global Titan Buddy Program, which is where international students who are coming to the US studying at Cal State Fullerton, they're paired with an American student, and together they can do cultural exchange. So if the international student has questions about American culture or good restaurants around the area or fun things to do, the American student would give insight into that. And let's say the American student wanted to know more about a certain country or a language, they can ask to be paired with a student from a certain country. It's completely free, it's all voluntary. You're paired with a student for a semester or longer. So keep that in mind, it's open to anyone, and it's a really great personal growth experience. Our other program we offer is the Global Titan Ambassador Program. That's something I was a part of last year during the fall and spring semester. And it's for students who have already studied abroad and come back, and they help other students study abroad. That's one of the really great professional work experience type of settings you can get. And you get a wonderful reference out of it also. So if you do end up studying abroad, make sure to check out this program and see if you're interested. I wanted to talk a little bit about my own experience. I know when I listened to different information sessions about studying abroad, I was pretty hesitant. I didn't know if it was right for me. I was nervous about going into a different country where I didn't know anyone. But coming back from it, I can definitely say the reward outweighed any kind of concern I had. I gained a greater perspective of my priorities in life and a new fire to pursue my goals. I didn't know I was capable of completing a whole program, but by the end, you just look back and you feel so proud of yourself. A new fire to pursue my goals. I find that I love helping people, and I didn't know that before I studied abroad. So it'll help you get that job that you're looking for, as well as your own personal development. Thank you so much for listening to this brief overview. And I know there might be a lot of things going on that you're thinking about, but just know you can totally do it. And you're going to do great things if you're able to study abroad.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I would just like to share information about some helpful resources for both students and their families. So let me just share my screen as well with you. Okay. So first we have here what is our African American Virtual Resource Center for Study Abroad and Global Engagement, which is an online collection of information and tools to inspire our Black and African American students to want to know more and to get involved in study abroad and global engagement opportunities. So first you'll see here, the page starts off with just kind of a showcase of some recognizable, well, I say recognizable, but some well-known African-American people whose stories of study abroad may not be so well known. The first person you see on the left is Amanda Gorman. You are probably aware of her because of her delivering her original poem at the inauguration of President Joe Biden in January 2021. She's also a National Youth Poet Laureate, but what you probably didn't know about her is she's a study abroad alumna who studied abroad in Spain. And, you know, there's stories like this about famous, maybe not so famous African Americans who have studied abroad for decades, you know, or lived abroad. And it's a way to shine light on these stories and to let people know, you know, we are out there and yes, we do this. And so please come find and learn about these experiences. My favorite part of the website, I have to say, is the student stories page. It's kind of in line with the same reason for wanting to share the stories about famous African Americans who've studied and lived abroad. We understand that representation matters, and we hope that just by sharing the experiences of other Black global titans, you as incoming students will also just be able to imagine yourselves going abroad. And I'm just scrolling down and you'll see there's quite a few stories here that we have. Some students are from CSUF, some are from other CSUs. And she is actually a travel blogger who agreed to participate in our interview project, because her focus of her blog is supporting African American students in their study abroad goals. So just, you know that these are stories that, you know, for me, I find them inspirational. I was saying that sometimes when I just kind of need a little pick me up, something to cheer me up quickly, I'll go here and I'll watch one of these interviews because it reminds me of my own experiences and why I got into this field and what it is we're trying to achieve and help students achieve. Also, I'll just go back to the homepage. Okay, oh, skip over her. We don't want to hear from her. No, I'm just kidding. That was me. We do provide information about news and relevant current events within the community and the CSU and at Cal State Fullerton. So we try to keep students informed for events that are related to supporting our Black and African American students and their global objectives. I showed you already the student story, so I'm just going to skip down to our list of resources. I don't want to scroll too quickly. I don't want to make anybody dizzy. but you can kind of see there's a lot of information here. And here with the resources, so we like to provide just a variety of resources. And here you can see there's articles, tips, videos to provide insights and facts about studying abroad in general, but also more specifically to address factors that may be tied to your identities, as well as questions and concerns that you might have about moving forward on this path. We also have information about scholarships and grants. Just going back to some of the Dr. Graham's story, where talking about finances was just kind of this idea of it's out of reach financially, and then there's other factors, but we don't want necessarily that to be the hurdle. We want other reasons to be the hurdle for our students, but we want students to understand that there are many ways to fund whatever type of program you choose. And this is just a start. I'm just going to click to expand the list. You can see this is a drop in the bucket as far as the types of scholarships and the number of scholarships that are available to our students. But we wanted to share these just to kind of get you going in your search, and to know that funding study abroad is definitely achievable. Okay. We also have information for parents and for their your families. So in addition to the website I just showed you, which families are definitely also welcome to review, we have information for parents that you can download in English. There's a Spanish version, and this is just information for parents to understand, okay, what is this? What's the point of study abroad? What are the benefits of study abroad? We talk about that personal development and growth. We talk about the career. There's some career readiness competencies that study abroad has been shown to support. There's academic benefits in spades. It's a multifaceted experience, and in the development, it's a compounding positive effect, years later, years and years after the student has gone through that experience. I still feel like my first study abroad experience was yesterday. It was over 20 years ago, and but I still feel that same enthusiasm for it as I did when I embarked on it. And I can understand the students' fears. I can understand that fear of the unknown that Dr. Graham talked about, but I also remember all of the insights and those light bulbs that turned on during the experience. And we want, for parents and families that might have those concerns and really want to support their student if they are curious about this, or you're trying to figure out how do you convince your student to do it. Maybe that's the situation you're in. Some of these parent resources are available to you, and obviously, you are welcome to ask questions as well. So that is all I have to share. I just wanted to let you all know we will be putting the links to the resources that we mentioned on our platform, so you can access that information after this presentation. We're happy to answer your questions, but just thank you very much for showing up today. We thank you for making the time. Really, we know it's a busy time, so thank you, and we hope to see you in the SAGE office, and we hope to get your questions and help you out.